All right, welcome back to Studio B, otherwise known as my daughter's bedroom. As we are going to dive in right now to types of assignments. And so, what we're talking about here is there's a rhythm to what we're going to be doing in the NLC Children's track for semester one. And so, there are three types of reoccurring assignments that we want you to know how you're going to handle them. We're going to be talking about which buttons to push and kind of how to actually do the grades at our meeting on the 15th. But right now, we just want to introduce you to kind of the three types um, of assignments that you're going to run into. And so let's talk about the first thing. The way that we're going about this is what's called a flipped classroom. In a flipped classroom, in a traditional classroom, you show up to the class and the content is given to you. A teacher stands in front of the class and gives you the information. And then you leave the classroom and you go, and outside of the classroom, you apply it, you do the assignments. That's when you do group work. We were probably most of us raised in a traditional classroom. What we do in the flipped classroom is the exact opposite. Instead, we provide them the content outside of a classroom setting, outside of the meeting. And so you're experiencing the flipped classroom right now as you watch this video of the content. This is normally stuff that we would do when we're together, but instead you're doing it on your own time. And so as a result, that provides our first type of assignment, which is video content and comments. And so we're going to have 8 gatherings. And so that means that there's going to be 8 chunks of content that they're going to need to watch and respond to before they arrive. And so the student expectations are they're going to watch the video and they're going to leave a comment when cued by the instructor. And so as the instructor is talking about them, they might say, okay, stop the video now and comment on this. Answer this question. And the expectation is going to be that the student will go in and leave that comment. These will be due by Thursday before the meeting. We don't want them waiting to the last minute to watch the video. And not only that, but you also need to grade the content before the meeting. And so that's your part. So the student is going to turn it in by Thursday. But before the meeting, you're going to go in and just check to make sure your students have completed the necessary comments. And here's the deal. The rubric is very simple. 0% if they didn't do it, 100% if they did. Pass, fail, baby. So that's the first type of grade that you're going to give, the first type of assignment the student's going to do, and how you're going to grade it. The second type is as we're talking through issues and areas of development, the students are going to be required after that time to do an implementation plan, to take the content that they've been given, whether it's cognitive development or physical development, and then they're going to write a response paper in a Google Doc, and they're going to include the following content. How's your current ministry doing in this area overall? So they're going to take what they've learned and apply it to where they serve. How are you doing? The next question we want to make sure they answer is, where do you see an opportunity for improvement? Because we want them not only to be able to know this content, but actually to be able to implement this content, to be able to evaluate and assess and then implement improvements where they're serving and where they're going to pastor in the future. And then they're going to determine what's their implementation plan for pursuing this 1% improvement. They're going to define the change, determine what things need to be done, who they need to talk to, and systems to put into place. And they're going to make their plan, and that's going to be due Wednesday after the gathering. So we've given them 3 days to kind of go in, think about what they've learned, and apply it to their current place of serving and prepare and make that change. That's the expectation, is that they attempt to make that change. So what's your expectation? Well, your expectation is Thursday or Friday, you need to go in and you need to read the implementation plan and you need to grade it. We're going to give them 50 points just for completing it. We're going to give them 20 points for their assessment of their current ministry. And again, there's a document called NLC Children Types of Assignments. You can open this up and you can see the rubric for yourself. You can read all the areas. We're going to give them 10% for pointing out an area of improvement, 10 points for defining the change, and 10 points for the thoroughness of their plan. I wouldn't stress too much about the grades because ultimately this won't be an A, B, C, D, or F situation. It'll simply be pass, fail. And so if they did it, give them the points, and if they didn't, don't give them the points. If you feel like, they really didn't show much effort or thought, then grade them poorly and go back and say, hey, I feel like you didn't really think thoroughly about this area, and challenge them to go back and redo it, or to send you another go at it and then reread it and regrade it. So, and your grade is going to be due the Friday after the gathering. So they're going to provide video. They're going to watch the video and comment. Then they're going to do an implementation plan. And then lastly, the third recurring thing is going to be an implementation response. So basically, they're going to write their plan within a couple of days after hearing the content. Then their job is to try to make that change. And the response is 2 weeks later, and we just want them to write a paper detailing how it went. What changes were they able to make? What successes have they seen in that 2-week period? Did they run into any challenges or barriers? And how did they adjust to them? We basically want to get a written response that lets us know that, number one, they attempted it, but then how did it go? We want them to see that sometimes implementations go great and you see immediate progress. And sometimes when you try to implement something, it doesn't go so well. And so there's struggle and challenges and barriers. And so the good news is that you can let them know this is what ministry is like. You see an opportunity, you pursue that opportunity, and sometimes it goes swimmingly and it's amazing. And other times you run into all kinds of barriers and you have to process what to do with that. The rubric's pretty simple: 70 points for completion, 10 points for changes that they made, 10% for successes, 10% for challenges. Again, the document is also attached to this assignment. You can do that. You can read that. We want to give you a little bit more time to grade this one because we really want you to dig in and see from the paper what they did and how it went. So 2 weeks after their initial plan was due is when their response is going to be due. And then a week after you receive it is when you're going to have to turn it back in. And so real quickly, let's take a look. Bridget Kaler has taken all this content and she's actually created a document that's also on here that is the grading schedule for semester one. And so you can begin to see when the student is going to turn it in and when you're going to have it done. When you're going to have your grading done. And again, let me remind you, this is a pass-fail situation. And so don't let this stress you out. Don't let it create anxiety. For the most part, if they're doing it and they're putting effort in, give them a great grade. If they're not putting effort in, then challenge them and encourage them to improve, to put more thought, more effort, to improve their writing skills if they're having problems with that. And so, again, if you have any questions from this content, anything you want us to make sure that we cover when we meet on the 15th, go ahead and write that down in the comments so I can check that right before we meet on the 15th to make sure that you get all your questions answered.